reason I believe in term limits is that you don't fall into the trap of thinking about your political career at the expense of the very constituency that you're supposed to represent. The most important thing to a member of Congress is getting reelected. Our children aren't the most important thing. Social Security isn't the most important thing. The deficit isn't the most important thing. The goal is not to be liked in Washington. The goal is to change America and get it back to the fundamental values that built us and made us strong. I'm Dr. Tom Covert, and I approve this message.
Hello, Tom. Term limits are of essential importance in the U.S. Congress to put an end to the senatorial dynasties and corruption the taxpayers have been tolerating for so many years. And this topic is important to you because the future of this country, corrupt politicians, and business as usual on Capitol Hill have a very direct impact on our day-to-day lives, not to mention the impact on our children's futures. Today I'm going to discuss the consequences of not having term limits, the positive effect of having congressional limits, and what we as voters and Americans can do to support term limits. Let me now turn your attention to some of the problems with not having term limits. In an article in the Journal of Politics in 2005, Chin Kong Pin and Emerson Now asserted that rotation militated against the corrupting potential of political power and also fostered civic confidence. Our Congress currently votes its own pay raises and pension funds, and I want to. This is the ratio of legislator salary to average full-time wage. This is how much our notice in all these countries up here. The U.S. is only second, only to Japan. And that's how much our legislators make while they're in office compared to what everyone else makes. I also want you to see the re-election rates in our House of Representatives from 1964 to 2008. That's how many people get re-elected into office. And there's our senatorial. And I don't know about to you guys, but to me that's kind of frightening. Congress also currently has the power to exempt themselves from certain pieces of legislation. War racketeering, tax evasion, and insider trading, among other offenses, are rampant within both chambers, more so the Senate. Now that you know a few of the problems with the lack of term limits in Congress, let's look at the benefits. According to James Ault, Ethan DeMesquita, and Shanna Rose in the Journal of Politics in 2011, an interesting finding from their model is that term limits will produce politicians whose policies are closer to the median voter position. If term limits are in place and pensions are removed or greatly reduced, representatives will be more interested in careful legislation that benefits the constituency, since they will have to abide by the same laws and tax policies when they're no longer in office. With term limits in place, our politicians go back to being public servants whose sole interest is to enhance the lives of their neighbors and then go back home to prosper under the advances and solid policies they've contributed to. Term limits would also greatly diminish the success and political gains of lobbying. We've now taken a brief look at the problems with what I call tenured politicians and the benefits of limiting their terms in office. I'd like to focus for just a moment on what you and I can do to work toward congressional term limits. The website Citizens for Term Limits, created in 2005, challenges us by saying no nation can ever be greater than the combined character, integrity, and virtue of its leaders. Please educate yourselves on current legislation as well as the integrity of your local representatives. Write regular, well-stated emails and letters to your senators and representatives about your support for term limits. There are many other changes that would get this country on the road to recovery, but term limits would go a long way to hinder the self-servitude that's widespread in our legislative branch. Now that I've given you at least a basic understanding of the benefits of term limits, let's look at all the information again. Term limits are of essential importance in the U.S. Congress to put an end to the senatorial dynasties and corruption the taxpayers have been tolerating for so long. Today I've discussed the consequences of not having term limits, the positive effect of having congressional term limits, and what we, as voters and Americans, can do to support term limits. As responsible American citizens, we have to take care of our future, and part of that responsibility is ending government tenures and corruption in Washington, D.C.